Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Every Arkansan podcast. I'm Drew Davis, and this week we've got my friend Sarah Smith. She's with Immerse Arkansas, and they go all out helping kids that are aging out of the foster care system, going through adoption, or just struggling with those life hurts of losing a family. If you know anyone who's dealing with those hurts, you don't want to miss out on this episode. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. You're not originally from Arkansas, so tell us a little bit your story about how you got here.
Yeah, I'm originally from Oklahoma, so grew up there, not too far away. And my husband and I actually moved here as part of a ministry of a church in 2000. So we were here from 2000 to 2011 and worked in youth ministry, and then we were able to move up to Indiana for a time, and then had the opportunity to move back. And so we jumped at the chance. We love Arkansas. And we've been back for about 2 years.
Yeah, I think one of the fun things about your story is it didn't really kind of go according to plan, so to speak. You guys decided to start fostering. Mm-hmm. So tell a little bit about how that kind of really, I guess more than anything, it wrecked you and kind of created you guys into who you are. So.
Yeah, it did. That's true. In 2014, so we were up in Indiana, and we were just struck with just the need that we had a lot of kids in our community that needed a home, just like many communities all over the country. And we were really compelled to do something about it. We had space in our home and space in our life and our hearts. And so we were actually able just to get involved. We had somebody that came up to us and asked us, have you ever thought about fostering? And we said yes. And so we went to an interest night, and from there we just kind of continued to roll into it. So we fostered for about 4 years up in Indiana, and it did. It wrecked us. It changed us. It grew us. It's probably the best thing and the hardest thing that we've ever done. And we're forever changed by just that experience.
But that fostering also led into adoption.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
So, that's the story that I guess every time I think of you, I think of, holy cow, they went through a lot to make that work. So
yeah. I don't know that you can ever be really prepared, like fully prepared for that foster parenting journey, as probably anybody that has been involved in that will say. And so we get into it, fully wanting to give our hearts to the kids that come to our home and be just an instrument of healing in their lives. And very quickly, I realized just within the first few days of us having our first placement that in order to really do that, I was going to have to really love them with all my heart, which meant I could not keep any of myself back, for fear of being hurt or to protect myself from pain, especially the pain of them leaving if they were ready to go back home. And it was very scary to think, here I am, I really need to love them. I need to be mom for them for this time in their life. And all that means is that I have to go all in. And that means I might get really hurt. And we did, really, it was one of those experiences that's true. And I hear a lot of people that say, oh, it would be really hard because I would love them too much, or I don't know if I would survive if they left, which I felt the same way. And that's true. You do grow to love them too much, and you do get, hurt when they leave. But that's not the end of the story, and that's not, you're not destroyed. Like, it doesn't end you. And I think that's where I was so afraid that I wouldn't survive. But we did, and we're better for it. So we just continued on, and we continue to have kids in our house that would come in, and we were able to be a part of their journey, and it looked different for every child that was in our home. And sometimes that meant we were able to help their biological family take the steps that they needed to get on the right path so that they could go back home, which was wonderful and hard all at the same time. Sometimes that meant finding the forever home for them in another place with another family, and just seeing the joy in that and being able to be a part of that process for them. We had a little boy that came to us just a year after we had started fostering, so he wasn't for sure wasn't the last that we fostered, but he continued to stay, and just through his ups and downs, and working, on with his case, and choosing every day to do what's best for him that is in my power to control, was quite a journey for us, and we were able to continue to work with him and continue to care for him in our home. And then he did need a forever home, that we were able to become that for him. So we adopted him just a little over a year ago, really.
And it was y'all moved,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was kind of a hard thing, because y'all even faced the opportunity or the possibility of losing him in that process, because you were moving, and y'all had to fight through a lot of the politics, a lot of the systems and the bureaucracy of multiple states to pull all that off.
Yeah, it was really amazing, and just, a testament to who God is and what he can do. But we were kind of in the middle of a transition with my husband's job, and so he was moving on to a different place. And in the meantime, our foster son's case was just kind of all over the place, and we really weren't sure what was going to be best for him, or what was going to be, the options for his future. But here he was in our home, and I was mom, for at least that time. And so to me, that means I do what's best for him. I do what's, I love him as if he were my own and he were forever. And I also think about what I would want if I were his biological mom for him. And that was kind of my guide. So every day, that's just what we would wake up and choose to do. And for him, what that meant was staying with us, continuing to stay with us. And so every day, kind of knowing that we were in the process of a transition because of a career change, and what that might mean for our family, move, relocating. It also meant what was best for him was to stay with us. And so learning to balance those two things, and not really knowing how it was going to work out, it meant I literally would just wake up every day and say, okay, what is best for us to do today? I don't know how it's going to work tomorrow, but today, this is what we're going to do. And so some of that meant that we stayed longer in Indiana than what we had anticipated, because that was what was best for everyone. And we continued to do that for about a year. We stayed a little bit longer, about a year longer in Indiana than we had anticipated. But then it also meant when the time came that it was time for us to come down to Arkansas and relocate here, it meant seeing how are we gonna walk this out, and how would he be able to come with us. And actually the timing of it was really amazing. He was able to come. We were his foster parents, and then a judge granted us a fictive kinship, which meant we were as if we were like his aunt and uncle, because we were the closest available relationship to him. And so in order to be able to move him, he granted that right. So he was placed with us as fictive kin in Arkansas, and then Arkansas worked with us here, and just kind of navigating between those two states. But that was able to provide him the time that his case needed to be able to adopt him. And so we were able to do that about a little over a year after we moved here was the adoption day. Went back up to Indiana and got it all finalized. So.
Once again, because we were walking through ministry at the same time, it's just, there's so many miracles that happened along the way that I can't even imagine jumping through, and then having the faith for God to deliver. It's a testament to you and your husband's just patience in the system.
Yeah.
But your husband came here to actually plant a church, and you were just kind of coming along for the ride. And you got here, and it's so cool that this story kind of laid the groundwork for what happened next. So just kind of talk through that process on your kind of discovering Immerse, and you've been a part of Immerse as long as I can remember. So
yeah, sure. Yeah, so just that whole experience in foster care and in the foster system just completely changed our eyes, our minds. opened our eyes to just a whole new world of just being the hands and feet of Christ, really. And, I tell people that foster care, being a foster parent, is the closest thing to tangible, like walking out of the gospel that I've ever been a part of. It's just, it's so real and raw and hard, but also just so redemptive and beautiful and wonderful at the same time. And because it just forever changed me, I knew, like, I'm hooked. Like, I will continue to be involved and fight for reconciliation and redemption and hope for kids that are in crisis or that have faced just horrible adverse experiences in their childhood. And so I began looking for some way and not knowing really what that was. Was that going to be continuing to foster parent? Would it be working in the system? Would it be just being an advocate or volunteering? I didn't really know. And a friend of mine recommended Immerse and just said, I really think that is, fits right in with where you are and where your heart is, and you ought to check them out. And so I did, and it was true. Immerse is such a place that has that heart for youth in crisis and bringing hope and healing in places that seem like there is none. And was able to have an opportunity to work full time for Immerse and really get involved at an organizational level. And yeah, it's great. It's exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Now, Immerse, as far as I know, is one of a kind in the state of Arkansas. Y'all really focus in on those that have been in the foster care system that are aging out in that process. So explain what aging out really means, because I think some people just get a little confused on what really happens in the real world when a kid turns 18 in the foster care system.
Yeah. So there are kids that are in the foster system that remain in foster care, and there's just not a permanent relationship that will work, unfortunately, for them. And it's tragic. It's horribly sad. And between the age of 18 and 21 in the state of Arkansas, that youth will eventually, what we call, age out of the system, which means that it's time for them to enter adulthood. And so they no longer are able to receive the support that they're getting from foster care, and they begin that journey of being on their own and trying to stand on their own 2 feet. Without a support system, I don't think any of us could do that, no matter who we are. And so that's where Immerse began to step in. And so 10 years ago, this year, we started in 2010. So Eric Gilmore and his wife Kara began Immerse and starting to work with youth that are transitioning out of foster care to help them find the support that they need to be able to have a healthy future and be able to stand on their own 2 feet with the support of other adults in the community. And that's really what it's about, is about relationship. We know that if trauma and if hurt happens in relationship, which we know it does, that means the healing has to happen in relationship too. And so that's really where we define that problem and the solution, is that those youth are going to need relationships in their life to be able to make it, and to be able to be successful and reach their God-given potential.
And I think it's important for people to realize that the statistics for a kid that ages out of foster care, it's an uphill battle. So do you mind sharing just some of the generalities of, without that safety net, what ends up happening to so many of these children?
Yeah, sure. Just with anybody, without the supportive, stable relationships in their life, you're going to face hard times. And in those hard times, if you don't have anybody to fall back on or to rely on, there's no safety net. And so that can often lead to abuse in their lives or in their relationships, but also substance abuse issues, mental health issues. We see a much higher incarceration rate with youth that have aged out of foster care. And just countless costs or even society. Just recently, They estimate that it costs about $300,000 over the lifetime of a youth that ages out of foster care to their community. And so that can be just in mental health needs or in physical health needs, but also in that incarceration, just with the safety issues that brings to our community. And so just not having those supportive relationships really is what can lead down that path that eventually leads to some of these things that just have such a high cost to that youth and to society as a whole.
And I mean, it's just crazy to see how you guys step in, because it's not just, hey, we're here, drop in, and we're going to meet with you. Y'all really create a new extended family for these young adults now, so to speak. So kind of describe what it looks like when someone ages out of the system and you get flagged to say, hey, let's check on this child, and how's that work?
Yeah. We're all about building a stronger tribe. And so that's the people that are involved or that can be surrounding that youth in their life. That can look like a lot of different ways, and it can be a combination of foster parents or adoptive parents. It can be some biological family. It can be counselors, therapists. It can be pastors, teachers, just anybody in the community that was willing to be a support for that youth. And so we really look at how can we build a stronger tribe for that youth, and we know it starts there. We have mentors that come and volunteer in our program they're just willing to be a caring adult that's not paid to be in your life, that will just stick with you through whatever may come. But that, we believe that relationship is really the key to healing, to true healing. And there's lots of issues and there's lots of symptoms that we do address, like housing, wage potential, like do they need educational supports, do they need career training to be able to reach what their goals and dreams are for their career. It also looks like health and well-being, and do they have access to the mental and physical health needs that they have and the helps for those. It also looks like just learning how to do normal, typical, daily life needs, and creating those life skills that you need to know how to budget, or what it looks like to go grocery shop and make healthy choices, how to manage finances and maintain a home, and just typical things that we often take for granted because we just had somebody that just taught us how to do it without really thinking about it. But those are the things that we're missing all throughout their growing up that we know you got to have them. And so we've got to be intentional about bringing those in at this point.
And then, I mean, even to the point of y'all are bringing in foster care kids that now have kids of their own, teaching them how to be a parent when they've never experienced what a real family looks like. And I mean, and even as far down, you've got volunteers that come in and help teach them how to cook, because it's never been something that so many of them have grown up around.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
And then talk about what it looks like. Tell us a story of what success looks like for some of these young adults.
Well, I think for starters, it starts to look like trust, and just the ability to trust the people that are in your life. And that's a really difficult thing, especially when you have a lot of people that broke that trust in your history. But learning to trust the people around you, to become interdependent, to where you're standing on your own, but you have that support around you, involves being able to open yourself up and be vulnerable and be able to trust those people to help you, because we all need help. Nobody ever got where they are on their own. And if you think that, you're really just fooling yourself. And so to know that we've got to depend on people, different times and different ways in our lives. And that's a skill that's going to have to be learned. And that trauma that came from broken trust is going to have to be overcome for these youth. And that takes time. So that's one of the things that we do, is we just stick with you no matter what through the ups and downs. And we believe that potential is there and may be buried under a lifetime of hard experiences. But it's there, and it'll take some time. We'll be able to get there, and it's just amazing to see that process happen one of the ways that that happens pretty often, that we see in that, like what you're talking about success looking like, is those times where it doesn't work and everybody just gets really frustrated and mad, and we may have youth that just leave. They're just done. They're tired, or it's just not working out, or it's scary to be in uncharted territory in your life. But when hard times hit, which they inevitably do with all of us, seeing those youth come back, and that moment where we're able to just embrace them with open arms, no matter what happened, is a really profound experience, not only for us to be able to be a part of that, just unconditional love and acceptance, but for a youth to receive that unconditional love and acceptance after, they maybe gotten mad at us, or they're tired, or they quit, is it's such a, like, almost a visual change that you can see in their lives. But we see a heart change when we're able to walk them through this experience where we're not giving up on you, no matter what, or what you do or what you don't do. And then to be able to prove that in those moments where they come back around because they're needing somebody and they don't have anybody else, anywhere else to turn, it's just such a healing, like, experience to do. And you see a change, and that, I think it comes from the inside out, that success. So when we start to see that heart change, then we start to see life changes, because now they can do better.
And then y'all have got that full-blown program, but y'all are also a drop-in facility, because there's so many of these young adults that are out there that maybe they were with you and now they're not, or they just don't want to quite come in. Talk about that a little bit, because that's a huge resource for this community at large.
Sure. Yeah, not long after Immerse started, it became real apparent that there were lots of youth that were in a similar situation, that came from crisis, but maybe hadn't come in through the foster system. They're the same youth, they have the same needs, but maybe they fell through the cracks, or just for whatever reason, they're out there, but nobody saw them. So looking at ways that we could expand that reach, to not only look at youth that are aging out of foster care, but also youth that maybe are just under the radar, where they may be runaway or homeless, victims of trafficking. And so about 2 years ago, we were able to open up a DropIn Center that's just a day center for youth just anywhere between the ages of 12 and 24 that just don't really have anywhere else to turn, or don't know where to go to get the help or the support that they need. So it's a really easy way for us to get started in building relationships with youth, regardless of their background or their history or their circumstances, to enter into a situation where they're in crisis and be able to help them become stabilized and start on that path towards healing, but then also of getting their life on track where they want it to be, and convincing them that they really can reach that potential, or that those hopes that they have are within their grasp. So we open about 6 days a week, and anybody in that age range can come in and get help with just different things they may need. They may need vital records, or help navigating the healthcare system. They may need a driver's license, or they may need to be able to enroll in school. They may just need a place to live, and so they can work with a coach to be able to see what their options are in the community, and we can advocate for them in different places around that provide other supports and other services, so that they can really get the help they need, and they understand how to work those systems to be able to maximize the benefits for themselves.
And I think it's important to mention, you said 12 years old. There's so many young people that are out there fending for themselves, and we all go to the DMV and we complain about how long it took, but imagine going and taking that long, but you were missing one piece of paper that how do I even go about getting a birth certificate or whatever.
Right.
It's something that's even more complex than learning to cook, because it's something that is totally foreign and no one wants to help them in the system and all this, but it's critical to be able to get a job, to be able to get into school. I mean, all these things that is going to help them be a success. There's so many homeless that I know that getting an ID can make all the difference in their world.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And so it's just so cool to see what all you do. And y'all also help out with hygiene products and clothing and whatever else y'all can come along with on that. And you almost just have a place, a hub that they can just kind of gather.
Yeah.
And just get out of the heat or get out of the cold and just stop for a minute to figure out what's going on.
Right. Sometimes, they just need a safe place where they can kind of let down their guard and rest a little bit. And in that, we hope to be able to gain their trust so that they will start to reach out and open up to us so that we can really find out what's going on and what those basic needs are that are in their lives and know how to best help them. We have to use lots of people out in the community, and there are a lot of great organizations that are out there that do awesome work. And so for us, it's about partnering with those agencies and developing relationships and really understanding what all of the opportunities are in our community to be able to help these youth so that we can offer them everything that they need. It doesn't all come from us, and there's no way that one organization could do it all. But being able to partner with other places in the community all over, really we believe that is what's going to help these youth the most. And so if we can be a conduit for them to different places in our city, then that's kind of the role that we can play. And then also just walking with them through that. It makes such a difference not to have to do all this work alone or not to feel that you're alone. And so we have coaches that are on our staff that they're there to guide and to counsel and to inform these youth of what opportunities are out there that would help them, but also they're just there to walk with them or go with them or stay with them or talk with them. And that can make all the difference in the world for a youth being able to sit in the DMV, with somebody, and then when, you have to go up to the counter and it's really intimidating and you really don't know the answer to a question, you've got somebody there to help. And so we can provide a safety net in that way to a lot of our youth.
It's amazing what all you do. I mean, just the opportunities that are out there for people to volunteer, the opportunities for people that have been out there in this world. We were talking about earlier, Better with Pie. Y'all do once a quarter nights that are really encouraging for people that the adoption process, the foster care process, or the post-foster care type scenario, anyone working in any of this, just coming together and being a community for each other so that we can better serve the community at large.
Yeah. So Immerse Families is about that tribe. And so we talk about building a stronger tribe around these youth in crisis. But one of the strongest ways that we can do that is through foster and adoptive families and giving them support, equipping them to better do the job that they're called to do, and also connect them with other families so that they can continue the fight and continue to go. I'm passionate about that because I experience the need as a foster parent it can feel lonely and isolating. You're not sure who is going to understand, or you're not sure where to turn to get the help you need. You don't even know what help you need. You don't know what you need in those situations sometimes, and it can be difficult to find the help in a sea of options. And we have all kinds of tools and trainings and things at our fingertips. It can often be hard to find the one that's really going to help you in your unique situation. And Immerse, very quickly realized that if we could move upstream and provide support and help to create stronger foster families and adoptive families, we would see less kids aging out. We would see less kids that become adults without a support network and people that love them and people that are able to provide that support and encouragement that they need. And so Immerse Families was born through that idea. So we do the same thing that we've always done. We just look at building that tribe specifically with foster and adoptive families. And that looks like Best with Pie, where that's just an event that we host where we're able to provide a venue for people that are in foster care and in that world of adoption to be able to come together and share stories and realize that they're not alone. There are people that understand, there are people that see what's going on, and it's just it's a really powerful time of encouragement for people to see the value in the blessings that come through this hard work. Oftentimes too, even people that are outside of that world only hear the bad stories and the sad stories, and they're there, there's no denying it, but there's such a redemption to those stories, even the hard ones, to see the beauty that can come from ashes and the healing that can come from such trauma. And Best with Pie is a place where we can share those stories and make sure that those stories are heard. We do lots of events for foster and adoptive families, different trainings, just to give them even more support while they're in this difficult work of helping kids heal.
And so y'all's website's immersearkansas.org?
Yes, immersearkansas.org. And then you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Immerse Arkansas as well.
And then you and your husband also have a church. We'll throw that in there at the end. Mm-hmm. Common Thread, located in Maumelle. What's the best way to find out about that?
You can go online to commonthread.church, or we're on Facebook, Common Thread Church.
All right. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for making the time to come and visit, for always being a friend to all of us here, and for all you guys do.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Every Arkansan podcast. Sarah's story and how she got to where she is and how God's using her strengths to move his kingdom forward inspire me in so many ways. I hope you enjoyed, and don't miss our next episode.